when they started smoking us on that first day, I was like, what did I just do? Like, I mean, because they smoke you so hard. And then it's like you hear about Coal Range and you're like, oh, Coal Range, whatever, you know? And then when you actually get there, it's like, holy, what did I just sign up for? Like,
Uh,
I cried on Coal Range. Like, you know, it was repeatedly hit the wood line, hit the wood line, hit the wood line. You're so tired, you're wet, you're sweaty, your arms hurt, your legs hurt, like they're not letting you sleep. It
yeah.
was just,
Battle Line Podcast, we have a great show for you guys. Curtis Albers. You know what? Before we even say that, I want to say Merry Christmas to our audience
Yeah.
because you're going to be hearing this show right before Christmas. And man, another Christmas that you guys have spent in some capacity with us listening to shows. And yeah, we greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you again. This is second or third. I always lose count. Ian has to correct me because I'm always off on my months and years. But thank you guys. And yeah, Merry Christmas to y'all. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and you guys just at least get to spend it with, your loved ones, or even if it's in person or at least by phone. That's the most important thing on Christmas. Presents are too, but being it with the family is extremely important. So I hope you all get to this year. And if not, well, just I'm going to tell you, do it. Find a way to do it and be with each other. So, Merry Christmas, guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, by the time people hear this, Hanukkah will be over, but we're in the middle of that. And I loved the last interview with Dan Gordon, and it's interesting because it got me reflecting on some things in my life. And I didn't go over all 8 nights to my family, even though they're just one town away. But I went over for one night. We lit the candles, and I don't think my family even remembered that I had this, but I brought it over. I have a safe in my room with like anybody else does, small safe with valuables and that type of thing. But when I went to Israel in 2005, I got to go down to the caves where the story of Hanukkah took place during the second century and took a piece of that debris from the story of Hanukkah, which it's interesting people are saying on Twitter, and it really is true. Like the first Zionist holiday, the first holiday celebrating Jews living there, despite the stuff that you're going to hear on TikTok that Jews have not lived there until 1948, although they were living there in the second century, which is kind of interesting. And I understand people stand on different sides of this issue. I'm not trying to convert anybody to that, but when you hear this blatant misinformation,
Yeah.
and it actually just makes you reflect on how awesome it was to go there and how I have to go back there at some time because I know you've never been there, but
No,
it's
never
like
have.
you go around the United States and you see the history here and you're like, wow, this is from the 1700s and the 1800s. And you go there and it's like, even if you're not religious, which I am not, if you're someone who has any type of reverence or any type of, monotheism, it was all born there. It's like, man, this is where Jesus Christ walked. This is where things happened prior to Jesus Christ. And it's a very humbling experience. And I hope to go back there someday. So that was
Yeah.
my reflection of these 8 nights.
That one place I would eventually like to go, but being able to spend time in Jordan and go to the Dead Sea and then go
Yeah.
to even Petra and then go to some of one of the first Christian churches in the Middle East is up Mount Nebo. Is that what it's called? I might
I am no
I'd have to
biblical
get
expert.
that's but just you're right. Being around those times that were AD, BC, and AD, and it's like it feels different, man. It does feel to me. It feels spiritual, whether you're spiritual or not.
Yeah.
It feels like, oh my god, it feels wonderful, and that's why I bet I'm again. I hope it felt the same to you when you were
Absolutely.
there. It's just whether you believe in God or believe in Jesus or believe in Allah or whatever, it still just feels spiritual regardless. And it did, and I did like that time in Jordan and taking time to go see a lot of those sites, which I'd love to one of these days to get to Israel and do the same thing.
Yeah, I would urge everyone to at some point, and it's interesting. I don't think we're there right now, but when people talk about the two-state solution stuff, I mean, I always think, why not three states? Because it's the birthplace of Judaism, Islam, and Christianity.
Christianity. Yeah.
Why don't Christians get a piece of Jerusalem? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. Why? Because they're not fighting each other over it. It's kind of
I
interesting when you think about it, though. I feel like,
like wars are started because of money or
yeah,
religion, and that's why right there. And there's probably a little bit of both of why there's not enough money and religion to go around. I don't, but I feel the same way. Like, dude, just it should be the birthplace of, and it is the birthplace. So why can't we all just
yeah.
get along and be there? This is from a guy who basically fought in wars and served in wars in some capacity for 10 years. And I still feel that same way, but I was like, geez, knock the fuck off. Let's just, because there's sites that people will never be able to see because of wars, because there's always conflicts, because they're unsafe. People will never get to see parts of Afghanistan that been so lucky that I got just standing up on a mountainside in Salang Pass that a lot of people will never get to see. And it's a shame because it's beautiful. And it's because of, and because, sorry guys, that's my wife. And it's because of wars and conflict and dangerous area, and because we differ on opinions, whether it be money, oil, or religion. And
Yeah.
it's sad, but that's that sucks, dude. That's humans right now.
Yeah. Well, on a positive note, before we get to Curtis, the other thing I wanted to mention that I thought was pretty damn cool was on Corey Taylor's 50th birthday, he announced that he is doing yet another tour. This guy, it never settles down. If he's not touring with Slipknot, he's touring solo. If he's not doing that, he's recording an album. And crazy enough, I never expected to see this. Who is opening for Corey Taylor on this tour throughout not just one date or two dates, throughout the United States and Canada? Jigsaw Youth, which we've had Nastasha
Yeah.
back from Jigsaw Youth on the show, and it's cool when whether it has anything to do with us when those connections kind of happen because they're both great people. I mean, Corey at the top of his game for years and years, and them a band who's been doing it a while, but is more of an up and comer. And man, that is a hell of an opportunity. So I just wanted to say congrats to them, and then
Yeah.
also if they're hitting your town, go see them. If you get to meet Nastasha in person, I doubt you'll meet Corey Taylor in person, but maybe her by the merch booth, and you tell her that you are a fan of Battle Line Podcast and enjoyed her interview. I'm honestly sure she'd appreciate it. And that's kind of the cool thing about doing the show is when you get to meet people in person and see the effect of what we do, because the views we get on YouTube or streaming, it's not quite as personal as getting to meet someone in person and saying like, hey, heard your interview, loved it. So I thought that was cool to mention, but we got to get to Curtis Albers. Before we do, I love all of the great stuff from Ned. I gotta say, during the winter months is when I really use a lot of products from Ned, whether it's the CBD or the relief balm, because my muscles, my joints do tend to tighten up in the winter time. And that's why I constantly say I need to be living in a warmer climate. But until I do, thank God for Ned. With over 700 five-star customer reviews, Ned's Mellow Magnesium is an instant hit. Nourish your entire body with Ned's proprietary super blend with 3 forms of chelated magnesium, GABA, L-theanine, and over 70 trace minerals. Also, as I said, CBD, Brain Blend, Relief Balm, all stuff that you use regularly as well. So,
Yeah, the relief balm, I'm hitting it hard right now because
mm,
of getting myself and my bad leg from where I had my surgery is getting repaired, but working that good leg for so much and favoring it for over a year, I've got some arthritis sitting in my hip and getting old and gonna have hip problems. Shocking. But man, that relief balm knocks it out. So daily using it. And that little, you think it's little, it's not, guys. That stuff lasts forever. You don't need a bunch, just a little bit, about a fingernail amount, and put it on the area that you're having issues with, especially if it's arthritis or even just sore muscles. Man, that stuff works awesome. And it's actually helping the healing process too, because of the anti-inflammatory capabilities that's got in it. So relief balm, CBD oil, mellow magnesium, doesn't matter what Ned makes, it's going to help you out and it's healthy for you. And I use it and it has helped me with my recovery and also stay extremely healthy in the body and also in the mind. Great stuff. Ned's tremendous group and tremendous products.
Yeah, 100%. HelloNed.com/Battleline. You'll get the best deal through us, especially as a first-time customer. So it's HELLONED.com/Battleline. If you haven't checked them out already, I don't know what you're waiting for. You owe it to yourself as a Christmas gift to yourself. HelloNed.com/Battleline.
From Kansas City to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Switch is on. Motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
You know, Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battle Line Podcast.
The Switch is on Battleline podcast, and actually, this is someone I've been meaning to have on the podcast for a very long time, as I said as we were speaking. Truth is, actually, I couldn't get in touch with Curtis Albers for a little bit, and then I reached out to our mutual friend Luke Ryan, who helped me set this up. And we've been speaking about it for months, and Curtis is like, when are we doing this? So we were finally doing it. Curtis Albers, Army Ranger, mutual friend of our good friend Luke Ryan, who's been on the show, combat vet of Iraq and Afghanistan. And as much as I bitch sometimes about the whole Zoom thing and how I'd love to do interviews in studio, it really is a beautiful thing that we can have you on all the way from Germany. Somehow there's no lag, and thank God for technology in that sense. Before we get into anything, and I know Chris will be curious about this too, because even the piece Luke wrote for you, and I don't even know if I asked you previously. So you served with Luke, and also in what battalion and all that? Because I don't even have any of that.
Well, actually, no, I didn't serve with Luke. Luke was, well, we were in the same Ranger Battalion, 3rd Ranger Battalion, but Luke served after me. We didn't serve at the exact same time. He served after I left, I believe.
That's what was the time like when I can't remember was Luke's was. What was yours again, Curtis? I can't remember.
Time frame was from 2000 and let me think. It's been such a long time.
I know those IEDs will knock you. Yeah, they'll knock some of those memories out too, bro.
It was from 2004 to 2007.
Okay,
was when I was in Ranger Battalion.
Yeah, and Luke, I think Luke came like in 09. I could be off too, but I thought he came like 08, 09, like the year after, right there.
Wow.
But yeah, third bat at that time. Geez, yeah, that was you guys were busy. You guys were really busy.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys were really. It's always, and for those that don't know Ranger Regiment, we have RF statuses, RF 1, 2, 3, but it doesn't make any damn difference. Third bat's going first every time. Because they're right at the headquarters. So even I was at second. So even when I was at second, and we're like on RF1 status. So we're like that's the status where you have to be wheels up. And I can't remember now. Is it 12 hours, 16 hours? We can be anywhere in the world.
Yeah,
like that. But and that's when we were rocking the pagers. Remember that I was rocking the pagers. You guys had you guys had those and. But yeah, you guys, hey, and do me a favor. That my picture of my kids came up. Can Harold edit that out?
I didn't even see anything. Okay. If it comes up,
Harold, blur that out, so nobody gets to see what my kids look like, or my wife will leave me again, and I don't want that to happen. But yet, we have these RF statuses, and it's ready force, or whatever the RF stands for now. Shit, I can't remember anymore, but I think that's what it is. And if you're on RF1, you're supposed to go. And that back in my good old days, we're rocking the pagers. You guys had cell phones, but if you get beeped, then you got to go do it. But it was like we're at second bat. We're like, because you do so many damn training alerts. I mean, 90% of the time you get a Bravo notification. Like, shit, is this real this time? And the CQ guy, if he's cool, he'll say, no, it's not real, but you got to get in anyway. But it's like, why are we doing these RF alerts? Because third bat's going first anyway. Doesn't make any damn made a difference who gets alerted because you guys were going. And but I'll get into. I just want that was kind of went off on a tangent there. I really, and as we get started here, and I know Ian's the same way. I really wanted to talk more about your upbringing, bro, because I wasn't familiar of all that until I read Luke's piece, and I mean. That's why I think we'll have you on again. I mean, I'd love to, because I don't think we're even going to get much into the Ranger stuff because of, I think your story leading up to Ranger Battalion and then just going through the RASP, which was RIP in my day, is amazing. And that was, to me, I was like, holy shit, I had no idea your upbringing was like it was. And to me, that's fucking remarkable, dude.
Thank you.
How you turned it around. But anyway, Ian, I know I went off on a tangent there. I just, you know me, my TBI or whatever you want to call it, postpartum depression. Isn't that when you're pregnant, right? Whatever it is. But yeah, I just brought back some good memories and you were third bat. I always admired you guys. You guys really were always under the microscope all the time. All the fucking time.
All the fucking time. Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Ian. Go ahead, Kurt.
No, that's it. I mean, I think you winded up in that. Luke wrote a piece several years back about you. And I think oftentimes when we have special operations veterans on, they all come from very different backgrounds, I would say, but yours is really unique. I mean, sometimes the thing that they're overcoming is maybe being like picked on in school or something like that, or fighting some type of demons, but like the demons you were fighting or as a young kid far outweigh most of what Chris or any of his colleagues have had on. So yeah, I mean, wherever you feel comfortable starting, man. I mean, it's powerful stuff.
Well, it was me, my sister, and my brother. We grew up in northeastern Minneapolis, Minnesota, to a drug addicted mother. And she would, I don't understand why, but she would leave us locked in the apartment for days at a time. While she went out and got more drugs, got more alcohol. And we would,
Curtis, what were your ages at just for the listeners so they can kind of maybe put some things in perspective in their life? But what were your ages at that when that was going on?
I was 5 and my sister was 3. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, she just left us in the apartment alone for maybe a couple days at a time, and then she would come back. We didn't have food, so we had to scavenge in the garbage cans outside for food, and we didn't have running water, which was really bad. Eventually, after a couple of years, I got tired of it and I decided to call the Minneapolis Police Department. I remember exactly what I told them. I was like, well, look, our mother isn't feeding us, and then I hung up the phone and not really thinking anything of it. I didn't think they would actually find us.
Yeah.
Or, they showed up maybe an hour or a couple minutes later and they were like, well, okay, where's your mom? And, our mom was laying on the bed, sleeping, and they arrested her right there. And she was like, well, how could you do this to me? And I was like, well, you're not feeding us, you're not taking care of us. I didn't actually say that, but that's what I was thinking.
Well, you're 7. I mean, you're 7 years old at that time, and wow, that is freaking. And just to have the maturity at 7 to take care of your sister, you made it those 2 years, and then to call the police. That's amazing. No, I know at 7, I don't know how you were thinking of that, which to me is just remarkable in itself. It says a lot about your character even that you didn't even know you had any character at that age. But buddy, wow, man, that's no, keep going. It's just amazing story to me. It really is.
I mean, I was terrified, to be honest, because I didn't know what was going to happen to me and my sister. Um, when the police came in and they took us, um, I didn't know that we were going to end up in abusive foster care for the next decade. Like, had I known that, I probably wouldn't have called the police on on our mom. But the other part of that is that if I didn't call the police on our mom, me and my sister would have died of malnutrition.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, well, it's almost like the lesser of two evils is that
yeah,
and I'm when I read that too, like holy shit, he just like out of the frying pan into the fire. But I felt that same way after I read Luke's piece. Like, well, if he wouldn't have done that, then I wouldn't be talking to Curtis, and he wouldn't have gone to Range Battalion, and we wouldn't be
yeah,
sitting here as Ranger buddies chatting. So,
yeah.
you can I had when I was reading the story. How did those 2 years that you were scavenging? How I just remarkable. How did how you didn't have any water? How did
No.
you find those things? I mean, aside from scavenging in garbage cans, was there anything else that I just find it remarkable that you didn't die in those in 2 years? I could see somebody surviving like that as a child, as an adult for six
Yeah.
months, let alone a child. What else was there? Anything else that neighbors that helped, anybody that brought any family at all, that other outside of your immediate family that helped out, or nothing at all?
Um, we had no one. Like, the neighbors knew what was going on, but they didn't intervene for
Wow.
whatever reason. Like, I still don't understand it, but yeah, they didn't intervene. Me and my sister survived off of garbage and toilet water,
Wow.
basically.
Oh, wow.
So
This,
then, getting into where you said a decade of
yeah,
abusive foster care. I mean, you told me like the people that took you in, it was basically they were getting a government paycheck and then they
Yeah,
looked at you as nothing.
yeah. We were basically, that's all we were. And it's funny because I say this word and I think to myself, well, the people that were taking care of us were black too. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
but all we were a bunch of and all we could do was work. Um, you know, basically, I don't even know how to describe it. It's
yeah. Well, obviously, it's hard. Just seeing your face, it's hard to relive all that, bud. And you see it in your eyes, man. Just talking to you here.
But
What
let him
was
get
there?
it. I want to let Curtis get
No,
into it
no.
though,
Yeah,
because
I want to have. I want to know those 10 years. We try to find positive things during awful times to get us through. And as
mhm.
children, whether that's playing or what was yours, bud? I mean, was there something that helped you get through the worst days? That good positive thoughts, even if they were dreams or fantasies or some goal down the road. I mean, were you
Yeah.
thinking of, man, I'm going to join the army and get the fuck out of here as soon as I can? What did you have anything like that? And maybe something it can help somebody that's listening to the show that may be going through hard times right now.
Well, initially, if I were to be honest, there was nothing. Um, I mean, I tried really hard to believe in God, because I thought maybe, just maybe, believing in God would take a little bit of the 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 difficulty out of my life.
Sure.
Um, but eventually I found the movie Glory. It was about the 54th Massachusetts Regiment
Yeah.
with Morgan Freeman and Denzel Washington.
Remember that.
That's the movie that inspired me to join the military. And I was like, I want to be like those guys. You know, like, I have nothing else. Um,
And by the way, we'll get into like the joining the military, but just because we kind of glossed over it quickly for people who want to know, I mean, you can check out Luke's piece, which we'll link to. But when you were taken in by these people and there was multiple foster cares, like, could you
Yeah,
get into like what they did to you, the physical
of
abuse, the
course,
mental abuse? Yeah.
of course. Where do I even begin? Our foster parents were only in it for the money. In fact, they would create ways to get more money. For example, our teachers would ask us, well, hey, why do you have holes in your socks? Our foster parents would tell our teachers, well, because they literally eat holes in their socks. And then the social workers would be like, oh, okay, well, you need more money to take care of this psychological issue. But that wasn't the truth. The truth was our foster parents just never bought us new socks. It's the same with, um, we were never allowed to look out of windows for whatever reason. Our foster parents they treated us like all we were just slave labor. We had to work out in the rock gardens, the infamous rock gardens, as they were called, every day, without food, without water. Um, when we complained to our social workers about this, our social workers would be like, well, the kids are lying. We're making it up. This can't be true. Um,
Were you separated from your sister the whole time, or were you with her?
no, me and my sister were together the whole time.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Did that? I know it would have if I and if I had ever been in that situation, which I never have, but I know if I had my brother or my sister there with me, it would have helped. Did it help having you two there, doing it together, and at least having someone that you could lean on if you could, or just having her there, knowing that, hey, I got to take care of her, so I've got to continue to do this to press on. Same with that at Ranger Battalion. When you go to combat, I can't let my Ranger buddy down. Well, family, it's even closer than that.
yeah.
Did you have those feelings with your sister, or
Well, me and my sister's relationship was fractured in foster care. We She was in survival mode. I was in survival mode. You know, she wanted to do whatever it took to survive,
yeah,
meaning she wanted to do whatever the foster parents told her to do. As much as it aggravated me, there was nothing that I could really do about it. And me and her were at each other's throats most of the time, um, you know, in foster care. Um,
wow,
it was like the foster parents would use us against one another, if that makes sense.
no, manipulate you, yeah,
Yeah,
divide the house divided can't stand. Who said that? Abraham Lincoln,
Abraham
like,
Lincoln, yeah.
yeah, I mean, but it's the same thing. You divide people that are close to you, and it's not gonna it's gonna fall. The house is gonna fall, and that goes with families too. So yeah, that's a common tactic, brother. And it maybe your
Well,
foster parents didn't think of it that way, but they were doing it. It's manipulative, and yeah, that's dirty shit. I just, as you moved on, and Ian, go ahead, buddy. I don't want to, if
Yeah, well,
there's
I was
something
going to
else you want to
ask
ask.
because the crazy thing is how you bounced around from one family to the next. Like, you would think
yeah,
that after going through
Yeah.
this, you'd probably be taken in at some point by someone else. So the fact that it keeps happening, it makes me realize like this must have been it must be very rampant in that community of people who adopt children, right? That they're
yeah,
using the system and they have
yeah.
no care for these kids' welfare. This is just all about getting a government
It,
paycheck.
Yeah.
is it still like this, brother? Or
You
is
know,
the social, or just your experience? I, I don't know. I don't know much about the social system with foster. So
I
yeah, tell
think
me.
I think if you talk to other foster children today, they would probably say the system is the same. There's not really much initiative on changing the system. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. Like, there are foster parents, and I don't know if this is for any other class of people, but for African American children in the foster care system, it's most of the foster parents are only in it for the money. That's my honest experience.
And I was going to say the reason
Right.
this doesn't like completely shock me is we've had Jason Piccolo on the podcast, who is Border Patrol agent. Chris wrote
Yeah.
the foreword for his book. And I mean, this is the guy who blew the whistle on that illegal immigrants who are coming over the border with children. Those children who get separated from their families are being brought in by registered sex offenders. And this is going on to
Yeah,
this day. And Jason, who should be heralded for
Yeah.
blowing the whistle on this, it basically was like it ostracized him from his job. So it just makes me think, man, the level of this crap going on, of the registered sex offenders, child abusers, who are the worst people of society, who are taking in children
yeah,
and bearing this responsibility. Like, it's unreal. And the fact that this is relatively unreported, it's awful.
yeah, yeah,
Did you see an
yeah.
end? Well, what age did you say, hey, I can get out. It's time for me to go. I can see a
Well,
light at the end of a tunnel. Or was that never saw until one day you just woke up and signed your paperwork and like, okay, oh wow, holy shit, I'm out of here.
well, actually, I was dreading the day that I would be getting out of foster care because I didn't know what to do. I didn't even know how to tie my shoes. I didn't know how to bathe correctly. I didn't know how to brush my teeth. And on the day that I turned 18, or I graduated high school, the foster parents were like, okay, Curtis, you're out of here. And I had nowhere to go. And effectively, I was homeless. Yeah. And I lived on the streets for a while.
How did the
You know,
school not even see that? To me, that's why your story is so amazing, is that you so many so many stops, so many backstops that it should have,
yeah,
so much limits of advances that you hit, or you hit a backstop, that it should have fixed it and it didn't. The school system failed
yeah,
you, the social system failed you, your family failed you, and here you are living on the streets. And yet again, you've got your questions. If you need to go back, man, please, I don't want to skip over stuff there, but yeah, living on the streets, how many years? It was in Luke's piece, but how many was that? A year, 2 years that you lived on the
no, it
streets?
was, well, there were two separate times I was homeless. After I graduated high school, I was homeless. And then for another, that was maybe like 6 months. And then for another 6 months, I lived in a Honda Civic in one of Minnesota's coldest
Cold
winters.
as shit. Holy
Yeah,
cow.
yeah,
For those that have never been to Minnesota, they leave their cars running when they get gas. It's so fucking cold
mhm,
up. Sick. And
yeah.
here you are surviving through all that. How did you do that mentally, physically? I mean, how did you get through that?
It was, I kept telling myself that life is going to get better.
Wow.
Like there's got to be a reason God or whatever entity is putting me through this. It's got to be something better. And that's what I kept telling myself. Um, Yet sometimes it was like, it was unbelievable when you're freezing cold and you don't have any food. It's difficult. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
It's, and you just don't believe you're going to survive. And then, I kept telling myself that things are going to get better.
But were you with your sister this whole time of
No,
so what
no.
happened to her as you're out on the
Um,
streets?
well, my sister was still in foster care.
Okay, because yeah, she was younger.
Yeah, she was younger. And you know, I don't I'm not angry at my sister. Um, but there were times I asked her for help. I asked her, Chantel, or, can you give me, a piece of bread or something when I was homeless? And
By the way,
she
with the way
would,
you said that, do we have to beep out her name or something? Or if we do, that's not a problem.
no, you can keep it. It's
Okay, cool,
fine.
cool, cool.
Can you give me a piece of bread? And she would be like, no, I can't. But I understand where she's coming from. If she helped me in the foster home, they would probably
Yeah,
abuse her more, so
Yeah,
man,
it's a crazy fight or flight, life or death type
yeah.
situation. So, I Chris was getting to this before, but I think now would be a good point. So, I mean, when do you learn about the Army? When does
yeah.
someone even point out that there's special operations, there's the Army Rangers? I mean, I would think someone must have heard about you and seen your story, saw what you're physically capable of, and said, like, you're a good fit for this.
Well, actually, my drill sergeants, were the ones that pointed out the Ranger Regiment to me. And at first I was like, well, you have to literally breathe the Army to join Ranger Battalion,
So wait,
And
before that, how do you get into the Army though? How do you
Yeah,
join the actual
oh,
Army?
did you just like drive by a recruiting station? Just oh shit, I'm gonna go like, and you went and applied, or was there? Because I was the same. I was like, wait a second, let's go back, Curtis. I want to know how you actually joined. I mean,
of
because that's
course.
because I mean, from one time you're gonna freeze in a car in Minnesota, which I can't believe you didn't in Minnesota. That's amazing in itself,
Yeah.
But yeah, how did you decide to go sign on the dotted line? What pushed you, or was it just random? Like, fuck it, I got to do something, and you signed up.
That was pretty much sums it up. I was homeless. I had no other choice. Joining the Army was just something that I've always wanted to join the military. I tried the Marine Corps, but it didn't work out the way I wanted it to.
When you
Um,
say tried it, did you actually enlist it or what?
no, I didn't do so well on the ASVAB.
I mean, and if you okay, come on, I'm gonna give you shit now, because and all you Marines out there, how bad do you have to do on the ASVAB to not become a Marine? Holy shit, dude! I mean, that's okay. We're gonna get a lot of fucking hate mail for that, Ian. Just be ready. I mean, shit, you eat the pen. I mean, no, it's not a
Eat the
red
pen.
crayon, but you eat the pen, you're in, man. But yeah. But then they're going to give me shit. We're like, well, you can still be a ranger even if you don't eat the pin. That's it. They go the other route. But
That's true.
so you did. So you went in the ASVAB and you didn't, and that's amazing. Or maybe you just sometimes, in God, I believe in God. And I know how hard it is going through what you've been through to believe it. And that, hey, I believe me, I believe me, I understand that. But the going to the Marine Corps and then realizing, okay, I didn't do well in the ASVAB. Did that do anything to you to take it? I mean, did you take it again? Did you like, oh, well, I just hit another
Well,
roadblock. I'm going to, yeah. What made you not quit to keep, I got to go
yeah.
try it again.
Yeah, I was like, well, you know what? I can work on the mathematics. That was the problem. Um, and then I basically told myself that I wasn't going to quit. I needed this. It was either this or being homeless. And I just kept working at it and working at it. And then, I retook the ASVAB. I took the ASVAB like 3 times, I think.
That's awesome.
Before I got a score that was good enough, and I joined the Army.
And that was, so the ASVAB, the third time you took it, was the Marine Corps done, or did they just say, well, they looked at your prior score and said, well, you can't be Marine, we're not going to look at other tests?
Well, I wasn't so much interested in joining the Marine Corps anymore. I wanted to do something that would highlight my abilities, and I thought maybe the Army would be a better fit.
Sure.
So
That makes sense. Ian, again, I don't want to cut you off, buddy. You got
No,
anything?
keep going, man.
So you're going in, and did you take the 11 X-ray contract is probably what it still is, right? 11 X-ray, or did you go to 11 Bravo contract, or did you, which is an infantry contract, or did you go somewhere else? Or was that where, I mean, watching Glory, I'm assuming that you probably wanted to go in the infantry, because that is
Yeah.
that's fucking as infantry as you get.
Yeah, that is.
But is that, and then so you did it, or did they try to talk you into something else? And did you didn't have an option 40? You didn't have it's option
No.
40 contract. It was called a RIP contract when I went in.
Yeah.
So you didn't have that going in from
No.
what you're okay. So now we've got to the drill sergeant part. You got anything in? Because now we're up to okay, cool. So we're up to the drill sergeant part. You go through base training, you're heading to Fort Benning, you stop at 30th AG, you get off the bus at 30th
AG.
Okay, start there. What happened, man? What happened?
So at 30th AG, I found it a little bit boring. It was just, that's pretty much all I can say about 30th AG. So then when I went to basic training, my drill sergeants, it was like maybe 6 or 7 weeks in, my drill sergeants offered me the Ranger contract. It could have been because I was really good at PT.
Yeah.
It could have been because they believed in me. I'd like to think the latter.
Bro, I would like to say that it was probably both. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
if you're good at PT and you're good at running, then they know you have the intestinal fortitude, so they're going to believe in you. And that's one thing I did love about a Ranger battalion. It was always performance, man. It was performance.
Yeah.
Nothing else. Perform. I don't give a shit what color you are, what you believe in. Can you perform? And that was it. So which battalion, if you don't mind me asking on a personal level, which infantry battalion, which training battalion did you go to?
3rd Ranger Battalion.
No, I know you went to third.
Yeah.
For a basic training. Which one did you go?
Do
you remember?
It was at Fort Benning. First.
You don't remember? Because
I don't remember. I have no idea.
Never mind. Well, getting through basic training, how was that, man, when you were going through basic training?
I actually loved basic training. I had a really good time. Like, it was, I mean, of course you always, you had the shit bags that you had to deal with, but ultimately my drill sergeants, my battle buddies, like, I had an amazing time at Fort Benning. Like, if I could do basic training over again, I would in a heartbeat.
Well, after all you had been through, holy shit, basic training should be a cakewalk.
Yeah. It was
everything.
It was pretty easy, I mean, of course, sometimes there was the mental blocks that I had, like I for whatever reason, surviving as much as I did caused me sometimes to not exactly understand or adapt as quickly as other people were. Sure. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely does. Just growing up and having that support network and not having abuse, it's going to allow you to calculate, be more analytical. It is. And I saw that with guys who I experienced even with myself. I had a great family. My parents were wonderful. They took great care. I went to school. I did everything like a normal kid would do, and it wasn't hard going in and doing the analytical stuff, the memorization and all that.
Yeah.
But those kids that came in with me that had a harder upbringing, sometimes they did. Not all of them, but a lot of times they did. And it's just it says a lot for parenting and having good parents and living and raising your kids right. Just being a normal kid growing up,
Yeah.
how it benefits you. Well, but I guess that's so unbelievable too, because you made it to where you're making it, and you're still having, having some learning issues, some learning
Yeah.
disability
Yeah.
through basic training. And sometimes drill sergeants aren't that kind on that. They'll
No.
pick that and they'll pick it up, pick
Yeah.
on that. And
Yeah.
so did you experience any of that where because you'll have one drill sergeant, or you'll have somebody that just they're going to see a weakness and they're going to try to pick at it to
Yeah.
see if they can get you off your game and see if they can get you out of your head and exploit it. It's a weakness they're trying to
Yeah.
exploit, not on purpose, but you got to, because you got combat. You got to deal with combat. If I can't
You
exploit
got
this
it.
weakness,
Exactly.
how did you find any of that in basic training? And if you did, how did you get through it, man? How did you persevere?
It's interesting, and that's a really good question. I suffered a lot in basic training. It was dealing with PTSD,
Yeah.
dealing with anxiety issues, dealing with being around people, because that was a big issue for me. The drill sergeants were surprisingly understanding. They understood that I was going, or I had come from a world of issues. They understood that, you know, Private Hammer is crying right now because he can't, understand the fundamentals of his rifle or even marksmanship. You know, that says a lot about his character. Even though I had these problems, even though, even though simple stuff like clearing a room became confusing to me, they still were like, okay, we'll give Hammer a break. He's doing the best that he can. And it was the same when I got into Ranger Regiment. Like the first 6 months of Ranger Battalion, I was a strong Ranger. I was the strongest Ranger that you could ever meet, because I just couldn't understand the basics. My squad leader, my team leader, they would be like, Hammer, or, well, now my name is Albers, but Hammer was my last name.
God,
When
I was going to ask if Hammer was your call sign, because I was like, that's a pretty badass call sign.
No, when I married my wife, I decided to change my name.
So you changed your last name to her name?
Yes.
You didn't
that is pretty untraditional.
You didn't even hyphen it, man. That
No.
reminded me of Hot Tub Time Machine. That is not progressive, man. No, that is not. All right, I'll give you shit about that later. But let's get through the serious stuff. That's so. That's so awesome. But it does say a lot about drill sergeants. Yes, drill sergeants are hard, but I still remember even the ones when I went through in the 90s. Drill Sergeant Hardney, and he was a big fucking black dude, and meaner than shit. But towards the end, I love that guy, and I can still see that picture and smile. I'm like, man, that guy made me. I had I drill sergeant Graham on one side, who was fucking Deliverance, and we're talking North Georgia, and then I had the demon, the black demon from this side, and those guys, as much as I hated them, and they did push us, and they'd find weaknesses and try to exploit it. But they were always, honestly, when they did see almost to that cracking point, they would stop. And they'd pull back and be like, okay, then they would mentor. And it was unbelievable leadership that drill sergeant showed. And it sounded like that's kind of what you were getting from them. Is that
That's exactly what I was getting from them. And it was, I still remember all three of my drill sergeants, and they taught me a lot about myself, and for anybody that's planning on joining the military and they're afraid of going to basic training because of the drill sergeants yelling at you and stuff like that, don't be afraid. They're there to teach you, and like, man, if I could just do it over, I absolutely would in a heartbeat.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying this interview with Curtis Albers. And you know what I should mention, because you're probably halfway through the interview, I want to make it clear, this interview is not a total downer. Like we get some positive things. And I think actually Curtis Albers' story is a very positive one.
No, it's amazing. His story is sort of overcome and perseverance. And I mean, we all go through hard times, and we've got to overcome them to become successful. Every one of us has gone through hard times. So yeah, stay with us, and you're going to hear us laugh like we always do. You miss episode where we're laughing and having a good time. But let's put things in perspective, and let's hear Curtis's story like you have been. Let's continue on and stick with us, because you're gonna want to hear his laugh towards in the second half of the show. Definitely wonderful laugh. Good dude.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we continue, Fort Scott Munitions is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. It's designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available through our privately owned businesses in all 50 states. Even around here on Long Island, there's some great dealers you could see if you click on the dealer locator. But if you want to get the best deal through us and order online, it's fsm.com. Use the exclusive promo code BattleLine for 15% off your order. Only available to listeners of the BattleLine podcast. fsm.com, promo code BattleLine. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, BattleLine Tactical, and the BattleLine podcast. With that, let's get right back over to Curtis Albers. Hey, you know what I wanted to ask you on that note, actually, is with your upbringing being so different from most of the guys in Ranger Regiment. I mean, I know that whether it's Chris or any of the other Rangers we have on, they'd likely say when they got that Ranger tab or Ranger scroll, like that's the biggest feeling of accomplishment in their lives much of the time. I would imagine for you, I mean, like Chris, you played football prior, you did all different things before joining the regiment. And a lot of the guys we've had on, they played sports. They accomplished so much in their lives up to that point. For you, when you earned that Ranger tab, Ranger scroll, I'm just wondering, because of your upbringing, was that the first time you felt a sense of like, wow, I've accomplished something. I'm someone.
I would even argue, I mean, I would even point out, what did you feel like when you got your, because it's not easy to be at basic training and get your Ranger contract in basic training.
Yeah.
A lot of guys don't. What did that feel like? Yeah. And then what did it feel like to get your scroll and then get your tab later down the line? But like I said, I would even go earlier, because that's not heard of. When you go to basic training and you don't have that Ranger contract, you most likely are not going to get it. You're not.
Yeah.
You may get lucky. For you to get it in basic training, which is unheard of, at least when I was going through, that never happened. How did that make you feel? Because when I heard you say that, I'm like, holy shit, that doesn't happen often. What was that feeling? And can you tell me that experience? Like, did they bring in the office? Did they call you in? And
of course.
And how did you feel, man?
Well, there were 4 of us. The drill sergeants called us into their office, and they were like, look here, we have Ranger contracts for you guys. Are you interested? Wow. And one guy said no, and then me and the 3 other guys were like, absolutely. It was either joining the Ranger Regiment, which, to be honest, I've only had one incident with a Ranger, and he came to our basic training class to talk to us about Ranger Regiment and RIP and all this other stuff. But when I saw that tan beret on him, I was like, man, that's what I want to be.
That's some cool shit. I'm sure he probably had it cocked down over his eye like a pirate. I just got that same feeling back, and this is how old I am, dude. This is when we only had we were the only ones that had the black berets.
Wow.
So yeah, that's how fucking old I am. Shut your mouth. I'm only 20. But I agree. The coolest thing I saw, that's what made me want to become a Ranger, was that beret, man, and how they wore it. It just looked badass, man.
And the confidence they had, and the swagger. That's the best way I can describe it. It was just like, I told Drill Sergeant Anthony, I want to be a Ranger, and I was slotted to go to airborne school after that, and it was the best decision I ever made.
Wow, man. You graduate basic training, you head to airborne school, as long as you can take the bumps from falling all the time, airborne
Oh
school is
yeah.
not hard. I actually got fat at airborne school because you get the weekends off and you go eat. But do you have any stories from airborne school? I mean, I do remember myself getting to be the first jumper out the door, my first day jump and my first night jump, which to me
Mhm.
is amazing. But other than that, airborne school was pretty.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you have any stories from airborne school before you had to
Well,
head off to RASP?
this isn't exactly the best story, but
Go on.
we were doing PT and there was a Marine captain, I don't know, a lieutenant behind me, and he kept yelling at me. And I was like, I had enough. I turned around and I was like, fuck you, and then the next minute I knew I was standing with him and Sergeant Airborne, and they were about to kick me out of airborne school. And I was like, oh man, I apologize. I'm sorry. Please don't, like I just but this is with me dealing with all of this other stuff that I had to deal with, and
Well, was he a student? Was he a
yeah, he was
student?
a student. Yeah. But apparently you can't yell at officers like that.
Oh fuck! When you're in a school, no, see that's horse shit. In black, you can tell
Yeah,
that black hat. That's what I mean. If you're a student, he's a student, then officer be damned. You can throw that rank in the fucking trash.
exactly.
Yeah, especially
Exactly.
and he's coming
That's
to an army base from fuck him, man. No.
yeah, that's what that got me in a lot of trouble, and I was about to be kicked out of airborne school. But I managed to convince the black hat, hey, look, I'm a good student, let me stay, and they let me stay, but man, but that was
That's cool.
still that was still bullshit, I have to say.
You go on airborne and then now help me out. I don't know if it's like this anymore, but like I said, RIP, we'd go from airborne, then the Ranger cadre, the RIP cadre, which is now the RASP cadre,
Yeah,
would come and get us. And that was an
yeah,
intimidating thing right there where guys would just quit right there. I mean, just when
yeah,
they is it still the same? And how was it? Do they still come pick you up at airborne
yeah.
school and
Eh,
make you throw your bags and either and run down to 75th? How was that? Because that experience, for those that don't know, is it's pretty humiliating because they really humiliate you in
yeah,
front of all the other students that are graduating that's not going to range battalion. What was that like?
yeah, that was intimidating. That's the best way I could
That
describe
is.
it, because they came, they would run down with their tan beret and their nice pressed uniform, and then they would pick us up from airborne school. We'd throw our bags in the Humvee or the truck or whatever it is, and then we run all the way down to um RIP, and it was it was intimidating.
What was the feeling like when you ran in the gate? Still in the same spot? Were you running the gate on the basketball hoop, basketball, the
Yeah,
blacktop there? Still that same old asbestos filled barracks that you're
yeah,
staying.
yeah,
When they closed that gate, did you? Hey man, oh, well, holy shit! It's almost to me. It felt like okay, well I'm in prison now. It's on. But did you feel anything when you got to RIP and they shut it down and they started smoking you there, or did they not? Did they just impress you
Ooh.
and let you go? What
Well,
they smoked the living shit out of us when we got there. It
well,
was
I was in RIP pending for like 3 months, and then
oh
yeah, because the classes were huge. And what else? There was yeah, it was like 3 months I was in RIP pending.
wow.
Yeah, I didn't go to RIP until December of that year. And when they started smoking us on that first day, I was like, shit, what did I just do? Like, I mean, because they smoke you so hard, and then it's like you hear about Cole Range, and you're like, oh, Cole Range, whatever, you know. And then when you actually get there, it's like, holy fuck, what did I just sign up for? Like,
Uh,
I cried on Cole Range, like, you know, it was repeatedly hit the wood line, hit the wood line, hit the wood line. And you're so tired, you're wet, you're sweaty, your arms hurt, your legs hurt, like they're not letting you sleep. It
yeah.
was just,
Full range is the fucking, and that is one lot of, unless you've gone to regiment, they
yeah,
post it now a little bit. I see it. I try to help out the ranger recruiting on my social media, and I'll repost their stuff. And whoever's doing their marketing does show a little bit of Coal Range, but Coal Range is a hidden secret of
yeah,
fucking misery and hell in the special
yeah.
operations community that not many people, unless you've been to regiment, know. And I attest to that, brother. I remember Coal Range just hitting the wood line. Go get a branch. All
Oh
right,
yeah.
that's not the right branch. Go get another one. Oh, you
Oh yeah.
motherfucker! That one's bent to the left. Go get one. I wanted one bent to the right, and you just continually. And that's just part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can skip ahead to that because we're getting cut for time. But yeah, how when you got to Coal Range, you've got through the first part of now. Are you doing the 8-week rasp? Or are you doing the 3-week rip? How does that
No,
work
the
now?
the 3-week rip.
Okay.
When I was in it was just 3 weeks rip.
It was still ripped, so they haven't
Yeah.
gotten to the rasp. Gotcha. So you're in that second week, and you've got to still be feeling pretty good about yourself because you've basically made the standards so far for the most part.
Yeah.
You've done the PT test, you've done the 12-miler, but you get to Coal Range, and we jumped to it. But when you got to Coal Range, was there any expectations aside from just what you'd heard, the stories? But when you got there, what was that feeling when they lined you up around the fire and you saw the
Oh
telephone
yeah.
poles? And how did you feel, man?
I was like, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, because it's like they have this fire there, you know, and they're like, if you want to sit around the fire, you can, you know, just quit. And
I've
like,
heard this story from so many other rangers too, and the guys drop out.
yeah, and they drop out. They drop out like flies. It's either that or it's like hit the wood line again or hold your rucksacks above your head.
Oh, oh
Oh
my
my
God.
God.
I forgot about that. Holy shit.
Yeah,
Oh.
it was just, I felt like if I could survive in foster care, I could do this. You know, I could do this. And I remember Sergeant First Class Wood was like, Hammer, you could run, you know, as I hit the wood line repeatedly again and again and again. And it was just, it was like Coal Range is, it's, I don't know. I mean, it's just a world of suck.
It's hell.
Yeah.
You just say it. It's fucking hell. But and the road marches that you have to do under those ungodly
yeah, of
paces.
course.
I and you can't run them, but you got to do like, I mean, literally we were doing 10-minute walking mile, like fucking
Yeah.
road. And that's, for those that don't know road marching, that is, without running, that is a ballistic fucking pace of
Yeah.
walking with 50, 60, 70-pound rucks on your back, depending.
Yeah.
Now, buddy, what got me at Coal Range, and I wanted to ask, because saying you had some issues with the ASVAB and there's some learning issues that you had. Coal Range is huge, where people wash out on land nav.
Yeah.
How
yeah.
did you get through? Because that's, you're using a protractor. Granted, you're not doing a ton of math, but you're doing a lot of analyzing maps. You're doing a lot of, you are doing simple math with adding and subtracting.
Yeah.
How did you get through that? Because that's where a lot of guys get bumped too, or
Yeah,
if
yeah.
they do very, very poor on it. And if you have learning issues, that's tough, man.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I I failed RIP the first time because of the swim test.
Did I tell you,
And
Ian? Did
by
I
the way,
tell you? Did I
yeah,
tell you? I told you.
I was gonna. Well, no. I mean, we could talk about that because we're a very politically incorrect show. We say what we want, but that is always the racial stereotype of black
Yeah,
guys
And
not being able to
yeah,
do
and
the
I
swimming
said
part.
it's
So
true.
Chris has given his take on that. As speaking as a black dude, what is your
Yeah.
take on that?
Yeah, the swim test was hard, if you don't swim regularly.
All right. So are you verifying that? And this is because in my RIP class, most people that failed the swim test were black guys, African Americans.
Yeah, yeah.
And the joke they would tell us, and this wasn't my joke. I'm a Mexican, so I got oh, you should be able to swim because you swim across the river. So I like, yeah, we got it. Mexicans are gonna pay but their joke was there's no pools in the ghetto. Mine is no. I was like, I said, look at you guys. You guys have no fat on you. You have all muscle. You're gonna sink,
Yeah.
and that's to me that's the biology of it. But yeah, what is why do only black guys fail the swim test, or why is it more black guys than white dudes? And I know Mexicans, we can swim, dude. I'm sorry, that may be a stereotype, but we can swim. But why, brother? Why? Tell me.
I honestly don't know. When in my RIP class, there were like 4 other black guys, and they all failed the swim test too. So I don't know. Maybe it's because maybe they're right. There are no swimming pools in the ghetto. Like it's. But I came back and I finally passed it. And it was.
Well, and they did help you because like they were great. They put everybody that failed the swim test, they got for the holding class. That's all they did for 3 weeks was, and so that's why I talk. Hey, I got one. I remember one buddy told me that, hey, well, you Rangers just want white dudes. That's no, fuck you. That's
No, that's not true.
That's not true. I said no. I said these guys went and they did swimming every day for 3 weeks, and that's good to hear that. That's right, because they want you to pass. They don't.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do want you to pass. Like, I made it. Like, I don't even know. I didn't even pass the swim test. But the Ranger cadre there saw that I was dedicated and saw that I was sinking, and they were like, well, Hammer, okay,
Yeah.
They were like, turn around, men, because all the other Rangers were sitting there watching everybody in the pool. And then Sergeant First Class Wood was like, all right, men, turn around. All the men turned around, and then they passed me, so it's more about heart than anything else. That's
You're right, man.
By the way, the like executive producer, the show type mindset of me knows that, man, this is going to be like a good clickbait right here. Like Black Ranger fails swim test. People are going to click on that.
You got to. Yeah, all Mexicans pass swim test. All black dudes fail swim test at Ranger Battalion. Yes, we match the stereo. I mean, but that's one thing is that it's what we saw. It's what I saw. It's just what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing racist about shit that happens that you see, and
there isn't anything racist.
No, and I know, and
all.
actually, I'm already going to guess Curtis is going to have the same exact response you would have, and any Ranger we have on the show has, and it goes into the whole thing of lowering standards if people don't make it, and the whole idea of we need to have female Rangers now, so let's lower the standards. I mean, I'm guessing coming from you, I don't want to answer for you, but it's like I'm assuming you don't want to see them lower standards just to diversify the military.
No, absolutely not. That's unacceptable. Like, we have to have a standard that everyone can pass, and I don't think
or not that everyone could pass that.
Well, not everyone.
Everyone's going to struggle to pass.
But I don't think that lowering the standard is such a good idea.
All that does, it makes the unit weaker. It makes the regiment weaker. It makes whatever's lowering this, it makes the group weaker. And by having a set standard, and we all ran, so I loved our standards. It didn't make a difference who the fuck you were, what you thought, this is what you have to make, and this is what we're gonna do. And
exactly.
And there, RIP, I do remember, that was one thing at RIP too, especially you had guys that they could see were going to be put the work in, that we're not going to quit. They were going to, not say they fudged it, but it's like, fuck it. And I remember Rip Cadre, and even when I got older, it was like, well, he'll get it when he goes to regiment. He may barely be making the standards here. We're going to pass him because when he gets to regiment, they're going to fuck him up and he's going to pass it there.
They're going to fuck him up. Exactly.
Or he's going to quit.
Yeah.
But it was still the standards. Yeah. And that was amazing to hear. And I love that swimming park. It's like, holy shit. It just sounds like when I was there.
I saw this coming.
Yeah. It's like, right. But when you got to regiment, and we're, we've got a few more minutes, so we've got a little bit more time here. Ian, I think we do, right?
I'm fine, man. I think Curtis is fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when you got, you got your beret, you find out you passed. What was that feeling like? You got your scroll. You have time to celebrate before you become well, you don't have time to celebrate because you got to go right.
Yeah, exactly.
But what was it? Yeah. Okay, so what was that moment that you felt when you graduated, and then about an hour later when you got to your squad? What was the feeling like there? Yeah. I'm sure they were probably both the two opposite feelings right there.
Well, I was extremely happy that I managed to get the tan beret, because a lot of guys quit and rip, and when I walked over to 3rd Ranger Battalion, I was like, man, I felt great. I felt absolutely great. It wasn't until I met the squad and they were coming back from Afghanistan that I was like, yeah, maybe I didn't make the right decision. Because I don't know if you know First Sergeant Seeley.
No, I don't know.
Big black guy. He's a huge black guy, but he was a first sergeant over at Seco at 3rd Ranger Battalion, and he was like, the first thing he said to me was like, Hammer, they're watching us, and I was like, huh? I didn't understand what that meant until maybe a few months in. I was like, okay, I get it. There's not a lot of black guys in Ranger Battalion. We have to be a certain way. Not because the Ranger Regiment's racist or anything, but just because there's a standard by which we are placing ourselves on, that we have to accept and that we have to do. And when I met the squad, I was like, okay, this is going to be a challenge, to be honest.
You know what I wanted to ask you too, before, you go into combat and all that, because that's what we're kind of leading up to. It sounds like just hearing your backstory and everything, and you speaking about, man, why didn't my neighbors help me out when I was growing up and we were being abused and they knew what was going on? I could tell that you were just a guy who has a strong sense of justice and doing the right thing and being a role model. Like I could tell all of that is within you. So I know it means something different to everyone who goes through it, but like, what does the Ranger Creed mean to you? Does it mean something specific to you as someone who does believe in fighting for justice and has lived being the victim of injustice?
Well, the Ranger Creed to me means, it's trying to live the Ranger Creed is difficult. But if you have a strong sense of self and you understand how do I even want to put this? Like when I was in Ranger Battalion, I tried to live the Ranger Creed as much as possible. It wasn't always easy, but I accepted it, and I tried to live up to what its meaning is ultimately. It's really difficult to put into words.
It's something to aspire to every day, something to try to be that person but it's you're right, but it's next to near impossible, but we can at least try to be our best person, the 100% and then some every day. You never
Exactly.
leave
It's
home.
funny because as the outsider of this conversation, right, who the Ranger created, it doesn't mean to me what it means to you guys because I never lived that, I never experienced. But it almost sounds like the way Christians will talk about trying to live like Jesus Christ. I mean, that's
Yeah.
literally what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You living your best self every day, never leaving your brother behind every day. I said the 100% and then some every day. When you fall down, picking yourself back up and trying
Yeah.
again every day. Yeah. But I don't want to put words in your mouth, Curtis,
No, no,
because
no,
I
no.
kind of feel like I am. Yeah, if you have more to add to that, bro, because that's how I feel. I not, but
Yeah. No, I feel exactly the same way. The Ranger Creed is something that I try to aspire to every single day, and sometimes it's difficult, like I
yeah.
remember times where I didn't feel like jumping out of an airplane or roping out of a helicopter, but you think about the Ranger Creed, and then it inspires you to do just that. Like, never leaving a fallen comrade behind. I mean, it's just when you're in Ranger Battalion and you're saying the creed over and over again,
Yeah.
you you basically just live it. You don't think about it. You don't think that you're living it, but you actually are when you put it in perspective. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's how I felt every day being in Ranger Battalion.
Yeah.
Even when I was a strong ranger, the Ranger Creed is what kept me, you know, focused and inspired me to be better than I was.
It
You
definitely
know?
did me too. The morally straight stuff is where I had that verbiage right there. Part of the Ranger Creed is where I had the
Yeah.
most difficult. I've got it now. I'm fucking got it now. But damn, morally straight. 100% that. So I won't quit. I'm not gonna leave it behind. But damn it, that morally straight shit.
Morally straight,
I
yeah.
got it. That's what I need to work. I think every Ranger has it. They could probably pick a piece out of the Ranger Creed. Say, yeah, that's my weak spot. But
Yeah.
that's what it's there for. It's
Yeah.
we're all going to have a weak spot within there, but that's why you aspire to be that perfect Ranger every day. But it's impossible. It's
It's
impossible.
impossible. It's impossible.
Yeah. We are getting to the because you were a strong Ranger, you said 6 months. So we're getting to that now because
Yeah.
we went back. And unless I'm skipping something, brother,
No, I mean,
you
it's
want to
fine.
ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was this where you felt that you weren't a strong Ranger anymore? And you say strong Ranger, you're like physically you're doing everything. You're
Yeah.
completing the task, you're learning. You haven't been to Ranger school yet, correct?
No.
So did you go to combat, or did you do your combat deployment or Ranger school first? Which one?
Well, actually, I didn't go to Ranger school.
And there's some that didn't. There's some that, because you guys were on that rotations that did that. And don't worry, I'll give you shit for that later. Don't worry about that. But no, but you can give me shit too, because all my combat deployments were as a contractor, so I don't have stereo scroll. So you can give me shit about that later, bro. But no, what happened, man? Where you're like, man, you didn't feel like you were a strong Ranger anymore. And maybe tell people what a strong Ranger, or what you feel like a strong Ranger is.
Okay. Well, I knew I wasn't a strong Ranger anymore. Oh, well, a strong Ranger is basically a Ranger that gets smoked a lot. Um, they mess up so much in Ranger Battalion that they have to do a lot of exercises. Like that's the base. That's basically what it is. I was a strong Ranger for the first 6 months in Ranger Battalion, simply because I couldn't complete certain tasks. I had a hard time with adaptability. I had a hard time learning exactly what was needed of me and what the squad and the platoon needed of me. For example, when we're clearing rooms, I make a mistake. I don't clear my sector properly, something like that. Um, What was the other part of that question?
Well, when you felt, or did you got the strong ranger stuff? And I get that, bud. I understand. We all were strong rangers for some part of the time there at Range
Yeah.
Battalion, because we're always getting smoked, at least in the beginning. And you're right. And then you have to learn fast. You're spot
Yeah.
on. That's one thing that at Range Battalion that people don't understand. I think it's with any special ops unit you go to, is that you're going through basic training. They taught you, you're airborne, you got, now the learning curve has increased.
Yeah.
You've got to pick it up, because
Yeah.
we could be going off to war the next day. So you got to learn. So I get that. And so don't feel sorry for Mr. Albers. I mean, Mr. Hammer slash hyphen Albers at all, because that's what it's supposed to be like. And
Yeah.
when did you feel like you were starting to grasp and yeah, and then also, was it before your deployments when you
It was actually on deployment in Iraq, in Mosul, Iraq, when I finally realized that I'm capable, that I'm no longer a strong ranger. And it was because I understood, you know, like before, it was like when we were figuring, or when we were talking about the objective, who we were going to get, you know, exactly what first, second, third platoons were supposed to do, what each element is supposed to do. Like, I understood exactly what was being asked of us, and I understood what was being asked of me as a saw gunner at that time, and it just made sense. Airfield seizures were no longer confusing. It made sense. Clearing rooms made sense. Rotary ring operations made sense. Everything just clicked, and I understood what I was supposed to do. And that's when I realized I'm no longer a strong ranger. And I wasn't a strong ranger, and my squad, or no, my team leader was like, we were on a Black Hawk for rotary wing, and he turned around and he's like, Hammer, I'm proud of you, and then that's when I was like, okay, I get this now.
That's
um
awesome.
I didn't go to ranger school because I needed to get out to help my sister with a lawsuit. And I regret it every single day of my life, not going to ranger school, but my sister needed this, so it was
And
just.
was it related to what you guys went through?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Are you able to mention like what it is in any detail, or?
Of course I can.
Okay, yeah,
Well,
get
yeah, go
get
ahead,
into it, because
bud.
that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, when I left the foster home, and that's when I became homeless, there was a man living with the foster parents, and my sister, who was homeless. He had nowhere else to go. Well, he started sexually abusing my sister when she was 16 and 17, and whew, and I got out of the Ranger Battalion a couple of months earlier to help her with file a lawsuit against the foster parents, the foster agency, and the man who abused her.
I'm gonna hope
Yeah.
she won that. I think she deserves a massive payday, quite honestly. It's the
Yeah,
least they could do.
it wasn't that much. It was like $675,000,
Yeah. But
and
at least that's something, although nothing could compensate for what you guys went through.
yeah.
But out of curiosity, are you guys still, because you said there was kind of fractured? I assume she's not in Germany. I mean, do you guys still
No.
talk? Do you? Yeah.
Me and my sister currently don't talk. We had a major disagreement. I don't have to get into that much
Yeah, that's
here,
fine.
but
You don't have to get
Yeah,
into anything
don't.
you don't want to, man.
it's I don't know. It's pretty much trivial. Like, it's not that big of a deal. We just don't see eye to eye on a couple of different things.
Yeah, I
Right?
feel like that's how most things
Yeah.
are, and you know, you're living your best life now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can get into any combat stuff because I also would like to get into a little bit about what you're doing now. And as you said, you know, what you're doing now is a lot of family time and all that. But any combat stuff that you can talk about because I mean that's got to be amazing to go through all that and then to go into combat.
Yeah. Combat, how would I even put this? Was difficult. I don't agree with killing other people. Um, but if my squad or my platoon is threatened or my team, then I have to react. There was a time in Ranger Battalion where I didn't engage the enemy because I was afraid. And that ended up putting me in the training room for a couple of months, and um there was this time where, we were clearing the objective, and then this 8-year-old girl, she just ran out in front of me, and I couldn't tell whether or not she had a IED on her or not, and I almost shot her. And then that's when I realized, wow, maybe this combat stuff isn't necessarily for me, you know. Um Combat is never really easy. It's I
No, you're spot on, but I completely understand that. And you do the same thing with your hands that I do. When I start talking about
I'm
stuff like
sorry.
wrapping your hands, I get it. But you're in Mosul and you're realizing that. How did the regiment and how did your squad, when you're starting to feel like, did you confide in any of them? Or I know your squad leader, I mean, we have the best leaders, I believe in the military.
Yeah,
And I know
yeah,
they're probably seeing that your CO or your platoon leader and your platoon sergeants, especially,
yeah.
they're fucking. Did they come to you and did they say anything to you or say, "Hey, man, what's going on?" And they got put you in the training room, so somebody saw, or did you just volunteer and you said, "Hey, man, I recognize that I may get one of my teammates killed because I'm going to flinch," and you can't
Yeah,
flinch.
yeah,
Eh,
you can't.
what happened, bud? If you don't mind me asking.
Well, no, I was involuntarily put in the training room.
Well,
Um, yeah, that's embarrassing to admit, but it happened. And I didn't want to get any of my team, any of my platoon squad killed, and the decision from my squad leader to put me in the training room was, the smartest thing anybody could ever do,
no, that
so
that's all. That takes a lot of guts to, bro. That
yeah,
takes a lot of fucking guts to admit right here on our
yeah,
show, and you have nothing to be ashamed of. Believe me, I'm telling you as a fellow Ranger, nothing to be ashamed of. You're there. You made it. You got your beret. You're in combat. You're going to Mosul. Mosul back in what 2008, 2000, or when was it? Even I don't get
2000,
6,
2006, yeah,
5 or 6. It was a fucking hairy ass place. It was hairy ass
yeah,
place till what 2017. I mean, it was till ISIS. We wiped out ISIS there. Many.
yeah,
Mosul was. So I don't. And seeing you as a fellow Ranger brother, you got nothing to be fucking ashamed of. And by saying that on the
thank you.
show, you've gone a step further. I think a lot of guys that we've come on the show, if that had happened to them, would not have voluntarily admitted that because of the alpha maleness that we all fucking
Yeah,
have.
yeah,
But but yeah,
And it sounds
that was
like you had, like a little bit of a moral
yeah.
issue of what was going on. And I'm just wondering, looking back in retrospect, you hear so many different opinions from guys who have been there and done that, and you certainly have been there and done that.
Yeah.
In retrospect, whether it's Iraq, Afghanistan, do you look back and I mean, I'm wondering from your perspective, should we have been there? What was the U.S. in the right of being in both places? What do you think after seeing it and doing it?
Well, I and I'm going to be honest. I don't think that we should have been there.
In both,
Um,
I'm asking
and
Afghanistan and
and
Iraq.
in both.
Yeah,
I understand the mission. I understand what we intended to do there, but I don't think that we should have been in Afghanistan or Iraq at all. You know, like too many American lives have been lost. Um, you know, we've killed I don't know how many terrorists, and there just seems to be a ridiculous amount more.
yeah.
Um,
We haven't had him on the show, but I've interviewed him before. Dan Hampton, who's an Air Force guy, the way he put it, he's the only one I've just heard to put it this way. Is he says terrorist whack-a-mole, just like the game whack-a-mole. You hit these guys and
yeah,
they pop right back
yeah,
up. And his whole thing that he's always said, and it's stuck with me, is he's like, the US is very good at killing terrorists, but what we need to do is kill the ideology, make the
yeah,
ideology not cool. And I worry about that too. I mean, like last week we had on Dan Gordon, and you always hear about this idea of like, we need to wipe out Hamas, we need to wipe out these terrorists. And quite honestly, just as my perspective as a guy who's not military, hasn't been in combat, but just sees what's going on, has heard the perspective of guys like you, like, I don't think you're ever going to kill every member of Hamas, every member of
no,
ISIS. They're going to keep popping back up, and it feels like a never-ending conflict. And I do think there's got to be some type of way that we kill this ideology, because
I
I
yeah,
don't think you're going to kill every terrorist.
I don't, and I don't see ideology ever going away. It's an ideology. It's just
yeah,
it's impossible to. It is, and it's job it's job security for the
yeah,
military. It's job security for the contractors. I'm saying it facetiously, but I'm also saying it honestly. It is, and I don't Iraq. I've encouraged. I have no issue with us going to Afghanistan. And this we're at the beginning of it because that's where Osama bin Laden was hiding.
yeah,
Just go get his ass. Iraq, after being there for so many years and looking back on it now, and Ian could tell, I same as you, brother. Like, well, fuck. I mean,
yeah,
I loved what I did there. I enjoyed it.
yeah,
I enjoyed what I did. I enjoyed my job, but no, and when it comes down to it, man, as long as we did it for the right reasons. And what was that? As Rangers or SEALs or Air Force PJs or Raiders or Marine Infantry, whatever, is that we did it because and just like you did say that, hey, I did it for the unit. I went for my
yeah,
brothers. We're there, and if they need me, I'm there. And maybe that's a way we rationalize it. And as I'm getting
yeah,
older, I'm like, well, is that the right? Well, maybe that's just how I rationalize it. But regardless,
And can I just jump in?
that's
Because
why
the
it's
weird
there.
thing too is doing this podcast, I've also learned the other side of that when we have a guy on like Hamidi
Hamidi
Jassim,
Jassim,
who
yeah.
was in Iraq and was tortured in Saddam's prison as a child, and he says, thank God the US went there. I may not
mm,
be here today. So I mean, I hear those stories too on this podcast. So it's that's the great thing about doing this podcast. I feel like is we truly do not have uh some slant of like, I want guys to speak their truth of what they
Yeah.
saw. I don't want anyone to come in here and push any ideology. But yeah, when I hear someone like Hamidi, as someone who is pretty non-interventionist foreign policy, I do understand his story. And I'm like, yeah, man, the guy like this, he probably would have been killed in Iraq if it wasn't for the
yeah,
Americans.
There's locals, and we have a local combat interpreters that live here in my small town of Kansas. And when they found out what I had done and served and who they came over and I don't want to put this in you so you have a positive, brother. They
mm,
came over and thanked me, and they're like, thank you, Rangers, thank you, SEALs, because they served with, they're like, if we wouldn't have been here, and their sons are playing soccer with my sons.
yeah,
And they're really fucking good. Dude, those damn Afghanis, they're fucking good. But they're like, you gave us confidence and you gave us purpose. And that's what Ian's talking about with Hamidi Jassim, who was a combat
mm,
terp in the Iraqi National Army. So at least take that with you, brother. If anything, is that, yeah, there are negatives that I agree with you on, but I have seen the positives. And Hamidi's one
mm,
of them. The Terps that we have here in Kansas that I get to talk to and that are now part of our community, and they're very positive part of our community. that they're like, thank you, because you gave us that will to fight back.
Mm.
And I agree with Ian. It's a conflict, though, right? It is. It's like,
Yeah.
man, they're killing innocents, but damn, man, we got people that actually righted their lives because we were there. And I think that's part of serving, bro. That's when we sign on the dotted line. We don't
Yeah.
realize that's one of the things that we sign up for, is that paradox we're always going to have forever.
Oh, I think I froze there for a second.
Yeah,
Keep
no
going.
worries.
Sorry.
We're always going to have that paradox in our head, that thing of right and wrong, that we're going to be, but because we've seen the right and wrong on both sides. But
Mm.
there is a positive, brother. So you've gone through a lot of hard things in your life. I don't want to add a hard thing to it. I want to add a positive to it. Say, man, we did help people. We did help some. Yeah, we destroyed a lot of lives. We did.
Yeah.
But we saved a lot of lives too. And there's living proof. And here's 3 examples. I mean, I give you 3, but 3's better than none. I give you
Yeah.
3 examples right here. And that's just people that I've dealt with, that one from Iraq and 2 from Afghanistan, that fought alongside of us. So
Yeah, and that stuff's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
You know, as I said, I do want to get into your life now
Yeah.
because it is positive, and
Yeah.
actually, it's probably a good story. You know, this is Christmas. People are hearing this the week of Christmas, and I think
Yeah.
you're living, like I said, your best life out there in Germany. And I'm just wondering, how did you even wind up in Germany? How did you get married
Yeah.
in Germany? I mean,
Oh.
you've been there for a long time.
Yeah. Well, actually, I met my wife, who's German, in the United States, and we decided to move to Germany. It's cheaper to live here. It's nicer. We don't have to worry about school shootings or, gun violence. It's awesome, and we basically just travel Europe. I don't have a job. we
And I
we
said before we recorded, it's like Chris will be kind of envious. I feel like because you said, yeah, you just go with your kids around Germany. And actually, if you don't mind me asking, just because I've seen the picture, I saw the picture of you from the back. I know it's not fit. You know, the kid you're with, I don't remember if it's your daughter or son, is like kind of white skinned. Are those
yeah.
your kids, or are those previous marriage, or
No, that's my daughter.
okay? Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah, she's my daughter. Her name is Yana. She's 11 years old.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
So,
and I mean, we love Germany. I can speak German. My German isn't the best, but it's getting there. And
Is this kind of crazy to you though? Is like I wonder, because as a guy who fought and put his life on the line for the United States, it almost sounds like, because I feel a lot of guys feel like this, like the America that you fought for is maybe not the same, because yeah, you've chosen to live completely away from all this and in a totally different country.
yeah, I still love my country. I would do anything in the world for the United States of America. It's just that when you get older, you want life to be easier. And in the United States, it's just not. I mean, you have to worry about bills, you have to worry about, debt. Like, you know, when you move anywhere else in the world, it's like it just feels like freedom, you know? It's hard to explain
do,
if
you don't owe the IRS money, or do we need to not
no, of
do
course not.
this? I don't want the
No.
IRS coming after you, because we did a
No,
another.
I understand
coming
where you're
after
coming from, but it's
Germany.
interesting, because it's kind of like the when you say the freedom thing, it's the difference between kind of that rugged individualism, freedom of America, and then a place like Europe where yes, you do have taxpayer funded healthcare, but you don't have the freedom to own a firearm. But because of that freedom, not freedom to own a firearm, you don't have to
Yeah.
worry about as much gun violence. I I understand on some level for sure. I've never even been to Germany. You know what? And I'm actually curious about this. I'm wondering truly like your experience as a black guy in Germany, because
Yeah.
one of the we did an interview with one of the I think the last interview with a World War II survivor a few months back. Now I'm trying to remember his name. Vincent Speranza.
Speranza,
Came in.
yeah,
But
101st.
I understand where he came from when he said he's like, I don't care how much has changed in Germany. I'm never going back there. And I
Oh,
mean, you think of
okay.
the United States, the United States, with all its problems, it still is a melting pot, especially where I am. You go to New York City, and it's funny, like regardless of what's going on in the Middle East, like you can get a halal, meal from a guy
Yeah.
on some stand, some Muslim guy who's probably pro-Palestine, and then probably walk across the street, get some shawarma from an Israeli place. And like you do hear about violence here and there, you do hear about hate crimes, but it's like by and large, we do all kind of live amongst each other. And Germany,
Yeah.
I feel like is a little bit more of a white ethno state, a little bit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But it's becoming more diverse, like
But
um
does that matter? If people are good, does that matter? I mean,
no, it doesn't.
if you enjoy where you're living, who gives a that's all. Who gives a fuck if you?
Yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah.
but I mean, maybe I'm speaking for you though, and I don't want to, but
No, no, no,
I'm
no.
doing it anyway. So fuck you, fuck it,
Yeah.
Curtis.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm
Maybe you guys disagree. It's funny because when I've spoken about like moving to somewhere like South Florida, where does Jeremy live again? I'm trying to think.
he's in South Alabama, so
Yeah,
he's
and I'll be
yeah.
honest, just of my background, I say something to Jeremy like, dude, I'll be like the one Jewish guy in the entire neighborhood. And like I'm not someone who's like, oh, I only speak to my kind or something. This is a pretty diverse conversation we're having here.
Yeah.
But I do think it's probably kind of weird to be the only type of your kind or one of the few living in a place. At least for me, it would be weird.
Well, it's interesting because Germans are they're very open when you can speak German. Like I've met people here who can't speak a word of German, and I understand why Germans are so annoyed by them. But when you learn German and you speak German and you attempt to acclimatize to the culture that's here, it doesn't matter what your skin color is from my perspective.
Well, it's a respect issue. It's if you're
Yeah,
trying to
exactly.
assimilate to another culture, that's why I tried to speak Dari. I did my best to speak Farsi. I did my best. I learned. I tried to assimilate, and when I could go out and speak in Afghanistan or even Iraq in simple words, you're like, well, he's trying. People don't understand. If you make that attempt to assimilate into another culture, you don't have to be exact. They're gonna open arms. They're like, he respects.
They're gonna exactly. Yeah.
I do think that's I see that a lot, and that's where maybe sometimes we have problems in America. Is people don't want to assimilate; they want to make their own cultures. They want to. It's like fuck no, just you. I don't live in America either. I live in the Midwest. That's not. I'm kidding. I'm fucking with you, dude. But it is. If you're going to come to somebody's house and you're going to disrespect it, well, fuck no, you don't belong here. You're going to come to somebody's house and try to respect their house, not necessarily their rules, but their house. Of course they're gonna. Hey man, yeah, you're trying, man. Come on, I'm gonna help you.
I'm gonna help you exactly. And that's what it's like living in Germany. Like at first, I felt a little bit awkward because I didn't see so many black people, especially African Americans walking around here. But eventually when you adapt to the culture and you speak the language, then it's like it's irrelevant what color your skin is.
Yeah.
Hey,
do you ever come back to the United States?
No.
Wow, which is crazy to me, man. It's nuts. I couldn't imagine. I just couldn't have ever met. Like I've been to other countries, but this will always be home for me, at least.
Yeah, I miss the United States, and I really want to come back. But we're just not sure when. My wife doesn't want to come back if Trump is president. I don't understand that. We don't have to talk about it, but
yeah, we don't get into, and I give two fucks about politics anymore, brother.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, that's your wife. Tell your wife to turn the news off and go live with you and drink a beer at the beer garden, and he gives a fuck. But you know that assimilation where you know what that sounds like? You're talking about assimilating and just accepting the culture you're in and trying to be that part of that culture, and you know what that sounds like? Being a private range battalion.
Oh yeah, exactly.
It's like, hey, man, motherfucker, I want to be a ranger. They're going to help you. If you want to try to be an individual at Ranger Battalion,
Yeah.
See ya, fucker, bye.
Yeah.
The door. So you have that skill. You know, I mean, you have that skill, and not it's necessarily
Yeah.
all from Ranger Battalion, but in it definitely being, and there aren't a lot of African Americans at Ranger Battalion. The ones
Oh
that are there,
yeah.
but
Oh
damn,
yeah.
the ones that are there, they're usually like I was there when Command Sergeant Major Hugh Roberts was my sergeant major out at Second Ranger Battalion. Then he was Regimental Sergeant Major, and
Mhm.
just like First Sergeant Seeley. If you
Mhm.
are an African American at Ranger Battalion, you're high up in rank, and you
Yeah.
are a bad motherfucker. You're a
Yeah, you
bad
are. Yeah.
you're a bad I went off a tangent there, but what last thing I have for you, bud, and I want to get into it because I do believe in fatherhood, and I love my kids. I think fathers need to be held in higher regard than they are nowadays. Well, and I see you pictures with your daughter, and you didn't have that growing up.
No.
So now you look like you are a tremendous father. Maybe I'm not seeing maybe I'm seeing the
Oh,
wrong
thank you.
pictures, but was that something when you've had your daughter and you're like, okay, I am not gonna let her go through what I went through,
Yeah.
or did something else come up? Because and what would you give what kind of advice would you give to fathers to be that good father that you didn't have, period?
Yeah. Well, I would say, um, as far as me not having the parents that most people deserve, um, when I raise my daughter, I always tell myself, okay, she can't go through what you went through. Like you have to you have to love her, you have to listen to her, and you have to take care of her, and you have to protect her. And that's what I think about when I look at my daughter. As far as advice is concerned, all I can tell people is you need to try. You need to try to be in your son's or your daughter's life. You need to love them like you've never been loved before. You need to care for them. You need to appreciate them. You need to, you know, when they're scared, you need to console them. You need to, ultimately, you just need to be there for them, you know? Um, no child should have to ever have gone through what I went through growing up. That it's ridiculous. But there are children that still do, and it's
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're a shining example of how not uh, to let your past, dictate your future, brother. Because
Thank you.
it didn't by any means. And I need to know how I cannot work and live in Germany and not do anything for the rest. You got to write a
Oh,
memoir.
well, we saved a lot of money. Like that's the first thing.
You probably, the truth
That's
is,
awesome.
you probably could. I mean, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, they pay for your health care, right? So it's like
Yeah.
there's so many people that in the United States, if you just go on YouTube, are moving to other, moving to the Philippines, moving to,
Yeah.
and on some level, I do understand why the United States has become completely unaffordable,
Yeah.
especially if you're here. I mean,
Yeah.
there are a ton of people
Yeah.
coming here illegally through the Mexican border who are saying themselves, the American dream is not here. I'm
Yeah.
going back. It's
Yeah.
pretty crazy, and it's a sad state of affairs.
Yeah.
Not that I think we should have the same healthcare as Europe or anything by any means, but I do understand the appeal of it. I'm not going to lie to that. I'm paying $800 a month myself for
Oh my
healthcare and an
God.
insane amount of rent, and that's
Wow.
how it is here,
I,
man.
yeah,
That's crazy.
and me,
Yeah.
yeah, healthcare. I have my healthcare covered because of the injury I had in the army, but my family doesn't. Yeah, healthcare is unbelievable. That Obamacare did not
Yeah.
do work. All it did was raise everybody's. Never mind. We're gonna get political. I don't want to get into that shit. It's just it's just dead. But brother, I said, and what you just said, save your money. If that isn't great advice for a father, then
Yeah.
I don't know what is. Because I did the same thing. I saved a ton of my money, so I don't have to work as much as I used to. But
Yeah.
Ian's spot on, man. Things cost so damn much now.
Yeah.
Here, I
Yeah.
still have. I'm like, how would I still have everything's paid off? How do I still have bills? I don't have any.
Yeah.
I don't. What do I?
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
So,
Like,
go ahead.
no, I mean, we spend maybe 3,000 euros a month, and we
Which is how much in American dollars?
like
Because I'm retarded.
like 3,500 US dollars, something like that.
Yeah, that's the. Actually, I would say that's unheard of, but like where Chris lives, it could happen. I've looked on Zillow around
could
where
be
Chris
amazing.
lives, and I'm like, geez, man, like I'm in this 1-bedroom apartment above my 2 landlords, paying nearly $2,600 a month.
That's
Oh
what I tell
my
Ian. I tell Ian. I
God.
said,
So,
Ian,
yeah.
come to where I live. You can get a house. You can get at least a
But
$250,000
truthfully, I've been to where
house.
Chris,
Yeah.
I would be bored out of my mind, I think, at a certain point. But I still do want to move to South Florida. Like that's the dream. But so many of my friends are here. You know, Chris sees I'll go to like Islander games with my friends. I'm going to Peter Luger tomorrow with and guys I went to elementary school with, guys I went to high school with. So that's kind of what keeps me here. But
Yeah.
anyway, man, do you have any social media, anything to promote? I don't even know where to find you, so.
Well, I'm on Facebook.
No,
Um,
whatever you want us to push out for you, brother. Or if you don't want us to push out anything, we don't have to. This is for you, my friend.
No, yeah, if people want to connect with me, add me on Facebook. It's just Curtis Albers. Yeah, that's all I got. Or you can email me at curtisalbers@outlook.com.
Oh, yeah, you know what? I'll ask one final question, man.
Yeah.
So when you were saying that your real last name was Curtis Hammer, it changed to Curtis Albers, and I was thinking Hammer was a call sign because that would be a
Yeah.
cool call sign. Did you have a call sign?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Oh, all right.
No call sign.
No worries. Now, most Ranger Battalion, nobody had call signs there. You're either scumbag or or sergeant.
So wait, did Chris, did your
sergeant.
call sign come up
Came
in
after.
GRS or?
came in GRS.
Oh, okay. I didn't
So
realize
actually, my call sign when I was at Blackwater in the beginning, for the State Department, when it was it was called the Coalition Provisional Authorities. When it was actually Princess, because I was always prettied up. I had the shape, so I was always Princess. And my friend and our guest Rob Jabber, he's the one that gave it to me. He's like, Princess, you're always goosed up. I didn't have this. You're always
Princess.
shaved, and your hair's always kind of like, yeah, he's really Prince. And then I got Tonto because of the Indian.
And then is that why you made your daughter a princess?
Actually, no, because she's my princess.
No.
No. And
Because he does have call signs for all his kids.
Well, yeah, I mean, but it wasn't because I was called Princess. She was just, but I've had to change it now. She's 14 or. Yeah, she can't be called. No more Princess, Dad. I'm too
Does
big.
she have a
No
new
more
call
princess.
sign?
Yeah.
Yeah, I call her Kiki. Kiki's her call sign. So,
Nice.
So with your last thing, buddy. So what's is this coming out before Christmas or?
Yeah,
it's
but
coming
it'll
out
be
after?
the week of Christmas. Yeah.
All right. Well, I was going to ask you, what are you getting your daughter for Christmas? But I don't want her to hear it, so I won't ask that question, man. But yeah, bro, I really appreciate you coming on, and I know it's hard to talk about a lot of stuff. I can see it in your face, but you did it like a champ. And Ranger, I admire the hell out of you. And but I wish I could get a pub. I just don't run in those circles anymore. But you would have a hell of a story for a book.
Oh, thank you.
Self-help book. If you ever wanted to sit down and write one, but because your story's amazing, and not just the Ranger part, which I'm sure we didn't get into, which we could get into maybe if we do another show down the line. But your stuff before, to me, is just remarkable, because you shouldn't even, dude, in my opinion, reading it, and you shouldn't even live past your 7th birthday.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. How did
Yeah.
and you got through all that, and then you were a PT stud. How the hell were you a PT stud growing up on trash and toilet water? Like, holy fuck, these dude's genes are unbelievable. But thank you for coming on, and man, I wish nothing but the best to you and your family, my friend.
Hey, thank you so much. You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you so much, Curtis. Merry Christmas, and
Merry Christmas.
Really appreciate this.
Hey, thank you.
That's all for this episode of Battle Line Podcast. but we're always posting new content on social media. Follow us on Instagram at Battleline Podcast and on Twitter at Battleline Pod. That's an order. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes up every Tuesday. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice. Believe in yourself. Face all challenges head on. And as always, never quit.